guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ksenia. I make videos for people who are going through the family immigration process. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to put together your adjustment of status packet for K1 visa holders. I already have a pretty lengthy, extensive, detailed video on how to put together an adjustment of status packet for family-based petitions, which means the I-130 petitions. Although that packet can generally apply to any family-based case, there are some variations for people who are adjusting their status from K1 fiancé visa. And so I was asked by some of you to make a specific video for K1 adjustment of status. I wanted to outline some packet filing, form filing tips from USCIS. When submitting your packet, you want to make sure that your entire packet is printed single-sided. Nothing should be double-sided. Next, you should not be using any staples or small paper clips. You also should not be using any binders or any sleeves. You want to make sure that the person who receives your packet for pre-processing is able to easily take it and insert it into a scanner. To keep your papers together, you can use one big clip that they can simply take out. I also see in some other videos, people recommending to put your different forms into different manila envelopes. In my personal opinion, that totally complicates the entire process. I am a huge believer of keeping it simple. If you would like to show where your forms separate, you can add colored dividers. The sticky tabs that you see at the bottom are see-through sticky tabs that I was able to find at CVS. These are totally optional. If you do choose to include the sticky tabs, you should always put them at the very bottom of your application and never on the sides, as it will jam their printers. I also recommend that you check out a video I made about the form filling tips, where I give important tips on how to make sure that your actual forms are filled out correctly. And if you're not the only applicant for adjustment of status, say for example, you are here on a K1 visa, but you also have a K2 child that arrived with you under the same fiancé petition, you can include their entire packet for adjustment together in the same envelope as your packet, but make sure that within that envelope, the two packets are clearly divided to make sure that the processing officer is aware that there are two green card cases in this packet. So now that we talked about the general tips, let's take apart this file and put it together. First and foremost, at the very top of your packet, you will include your passport style photos. For K1 adjustment of status, you only generally need 2 photos of the K1 visa holder. You do not need to include photos of the petitioner. If you have a K2 applicant with you, you will also include 2 passport style photos of them. So this is just a sample, and imagine that this is also a second photo. And the 2 photos also on the back, you want to make sure you write in pen the name of the person who is in the photo, and if applicable, you may also write the A number on the back of this photo. The photos will go at the top. You can put the photos either just like that, you can attach them with the big paper clip as I did earlier, or you can also put them in a small Ziploc bag like I did in my other video and attach the Ziploc bag to the top of your file. So this will go at the very top. The next thing that should go at the very top of your file is the payment for your adjustment of status application. And any other forms that you are including with your file. So there are different payment methods that you can use. I will show you the top 2 payment methods that typically people use for their cases. One example of a payment method is a money order. A money order can be easily obtained at a postal service office. It can be obtained at Walmart, any check cashing place. You will need to include a separate money order for each application that you are including. You're obviously filing adjustment of status, so you will include money orders for that. And if you are also choosing to apply for employment authorization and advanced parole, you will also need to attach 2 separate money orders there. You should never combine the total amount of all fees into one money order or split them between money orders evenly. You should be submitting a separate money order for each form. The reason why you will need 2 money orders for the adjustment of status application is because a money order limit is only $1,000. In order to be able to pay for this form, the total fee is $1,440. So you will simply need to get 2 money orders, and both of them are for the same form. And then any other forms that you're filing, like we said earlier, separate money orders. Alternatively, you can also use a cashier's check or a personal check. The cashier's checks or personal checks do not have a limit on the amount you can write on the check. So if you are using a cashier's check, for example, then of course you can include the full amount of the one application into one cashier's check. And similarly, like with any other payment method, you will need to obtain a separate cashier's check for each application you are submitting. So you will either pay with one of these, or you may also choose to pay with a credit card, in which case you will need to fill out a form G1450 and provide the cardholder's name, cardholder's information, and do not forget to sign. And sometimes they also will be able to process your debit cards, but in a lot of people's experiences, banks usually flag debit card transactions as fraud and they may reject your file, which is why it's safer to use a credit card with this particular payment method. Just like with all the other payment methods, you will need to file a separate G1450 for each application you're filing. So let's say, for example, you're only filing 2 applications, such as the adjustment of status and maybe employment authorization. In that case, you will need to file 2 separate forms to pay for each. The payments should always go at the very, very top of your entire file. So it would either be this or this, and the photos up top. The next thing you want to include with your file is a cover letter. A cover letter is not a requirement. It is simply a descriptive letter that lists out all of the things that are included in this packet. Generally, the way you write things in the cover letter will be the same way you put the things in your packet. So as you can see, for example, we listed out the passport style photos, the filing fees, and then everything else that will follow. And you can download this particular cover letter sample in my shop for free, which I will link in the description box of this video. Even if you're not planning to use a cover letter for your packet, you can also download it and use it simply as a checklist for yourself of what needs to be prepared for your K1 or K2 adjustment of status. So the cover letter, like we said, will go directly after the payments for your file. Next, in the cover letter, we mentioned that this is a K1 adjustment of status case, for which you will be required to provide a copy of your I-129F approval notice. So this will be the copy of your fiancé visa petition approval. You will need to include it directly after the cover letter, or if you're not using the cover letter, directly after the payment. After the copy of your petition approval, you will need to also provide a copy of your actual marriage certificate. Not the marriage license, but the marriage certificate that you will officially receive after you get married and after your marriage is processed by your city, county, or state. The copy of your marriage certificate will serve as proof that you got married within the 90 days of arrival, which is required in this case. And it is also listed in the Form I-485 instructions. So the next thing you can include, which is optional, it is not required for K-1 adjustment of status applicants, but it can be included if you wish. And that is any additional bona fides of your marriage. Unlike the spousal I-130 cases or any other family I-130 cases, for I-129F cases, you only need to provide a copy of your marriage certificate to prove that you and your fiance got married. But some applicants also choose to include additional bona fides of their marriage to prove that they indeed got married by including photos from their wedding, any additional bona fides, any financial evidences, etc. You may be wondering, how can I obtain financial evidence if I just got married and we're sending adjustment of status? Well, in a lot of cases, believe it or not, people do not actually send their adjustment of status paperwork within 90 days. You must get married within 90 days of arrival to be eligible for fiancé adjustment of status. But you do not have to actually file the adjustment of status within 90 days. In some cases, for personal, financial, medical reasons, once a fiancé arrives and gets married within 90 days, maybe there are circumstances that do not allow you to actually file all this paperwork within 3 months. And even if you file your adjustment of status application a year or even 2 years later, that is still perfectly fine because you got married within 90 days of arrival. In that case, if you have been here for a while waiting to file for adjustment of status, you may already have a lot of additional bona fide marital evidence, like financials, health insurances, tax returns, etc. Of course, like we just said, this is not required by any means. The reason being is eventually, if you do end up filing your packet pretty soon, you will receive a conditional 2-year green card and will have to file for removal of conditions in about 2 years' time. So by then, you will need to present additional bona fide marital evidence. And if you are confused at this point, not sure what I'm talking about, I highly recommend that you check out my video on I-751 or simply search in Google for I-751 removal of conditions. So after, you will include the following, which is the Department of State vaccination documentation sheet. What the consular people or the customs officers must do is, if they take your medical exam from you, they must still return to you this copy of your vaccination documentation sheet. For fiancé adjustment of status cases, you do not have to go through a medical exam inside the United States again, because your medical exam is already accepted and processed by the State Department. This is the only thing you will need to attach with you. In a case where, for example, you waited a very long time to apply for adjustment of status, they may send you a request for evidence asking you to complete a medical exam again. But that may not necessarily happen. The next part is your actual application for green card, which is the I-485 form. And together with this form, you will also need to attach I-864, which is the affidavit of support. You can see here that I used a colored piece of paper as a divider between the prerequisite parts of your packet and the actual applications. One of the things you can also include with your applications is the Form G1145. This will allow USCIS to send you an electronic notification either by text or email to notify you when your file has been accepted. Usually it is a useful tool because they will provide you with your electronic tracking number or receipt number for these applications, which you can plug into your USCIS account or any other tracking app before you are able to receive the actual physical receipt notices in the mail. Sometimes the actual mailed receipt notices for your case can take 30 to 60 days. So in the meantime, you can at least get some kind of electronic notice that your file has been accepted. When you print the application from the site, always make sure that the expiration and addition dates at the bottom of the application are matching exactly to the application that is currently available on USCIS site. So if you, for example, take a few months to prepare your entire packet, I highly recommend that you double check the USCIS site to make sure that your forms hasn't yet expired. Some printers will not print the barcode at the bottom of your forms, which is okay, but you still need to make sure that the page number and the edition dates are visible at the bottom. Make sure that, like we said earlier, all the forms are printed single-sided and that you do not forget to sign your applications. So in our case, we will then have the form I-485, which is the actual green card application. After the form I-485, you want to include the supporting documentation. So you will need to include a copy of your visa, a copy of your passport, a copy of your I-94, a copy of your birth certificate, and birth certificate translation if applicable. You will then follow this form up with the form I-864, which is directly related to the adjustment of status form. This is the form that will determine if your petitioning sponsor is eligible to file for you. So the I-864 form must always be filled out by the petitioner, and if your petitioner doesn't make enough income to support you financially, then they will also need to have a co-sponsor. And if you have any questions about this specific form, check out my I-864 playlist because it is an extensive form. It causes the most confusion, has the most questions. So if you have any concerns about it, check out that playlist first. I promise you, you will find answers there. And after the I-864 form, make sure that you're also including the required documentations, which is proof of the sponsor's citizenship or permanent residency, their W-2s, and their tax returns for at least the most recent year or any additional tax return years that you choose to include with your form. So this will go next in your file. And your entire packet may look just like this if you're not choosing to apply for anything else, if you are just applying for the green card. However, if you're also choosing to apply for employment authorization or travel document in the meantime, you can also include these two optional forms. I think a lot of people misunderstand the purpose of these, so I will quickly explain. The employment authorization form and the travel document advanced parole forms serve kind of as a bridge between you applying for a green card and receiving your green card. So because green card processing can take quite some time, your beneficiary, so your fiance, may want to work in the United States or travel back home temporarily while they're waiting for their green card. This is then the purpose of these two forms. These two forms are not free. You must pay a fee for them as well. So if you really can't afford at the moment to send them, you really don't have to apply for these two forms. But do keep in mind that you will not be able to leave the United States while waiting for your green card if something happens without the proper travel documentation. If you leave the US after filing your adjustment of status and you don't have a travel document, your entire packet will be considered abandoned and it will be denied even if the US Customs officers let you back into the country, they will still send you a denial letter on your case. So don't make that mistake. But what I would say, honestly, is for fiancé visa adjustment of status, the process is generally a lot faster than for people who are applying based on other family-based petitions. Fiancé visa adjustment of status takes a lot quicker because you already waited probably close to a year to have your I-129F petition approved. So the actual adjustment of status paperwork probably will not take that long. I would say anywhere under 6 months. In some cases, I've seen 3 months, 4 months. So these two forms are generally not necessary. However, if you would like to just get a little bit of extra assurance on your case, just to make sure you're able to work or maybe travel in case of an emergency, you still can file these two forms. And they would go at the back of your file. So let's clip it back together, and this is what our packet looks like. And you can put this file, this entire packet, directly into one of the USPS mailing envelopes. You can put it in a bubble mailer, or if your packet is too thick and doesn't really fit, you can also use one of the small boxes that they provide for you, document boxes, which you can also use to send your packet to the lockbox facility. If you are wondering where to send your packet, you can check out the USCIS website. I will also link the filing address for fiancé adjustment of status cases. So good luck in your case, and I hope to see you guys in my next videos. Bye!